In this video, we're going to review the 4 points of emphasis for NFHS baseball in 2023. Sportsmanship, obstruction and interference, jewelry, and eye black. These were put together by the NFHS leadership because they believe these are areas of the game that must be addressed and require special attention. Now, these points of emphasis will be stressed with coaches before and during the season, and it's important that umpires are just as aware of them and are prepared to enforce them as necessary in every game. So in this video, we'll first review the points of emphasis, and then we'll work through case plays associated with those points. Now, if you want to see how well you can do on the case plays before going through the review with me at the end of the video, you can find a link to it in the video description. Hi everyone, Patrick Farber here from GHSA Baseball Umpire Development and Umpire Classroom, where we help umpires develop their knowledge and skills. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out the rest of our videos. Also, if you want next week's case plays emailed to you, you can sign up in the video description. Let's get started. Sportsmanship issues are a growing challenge in high school sports, and for this reason, the NFHS has made sportsmanship the #1 point of emphasis in every sport. For umpires, we're expected to focus on the players, coaches, and other bench dugout personnel when upholding sportsmanship in our games. This can include working with coaches to ensure sportsmanship is being upheld. Note that umpires are instructed to never engage with spectators who are exhibiting unsporting behavior. That responsibility falls to the game administrator and school, and they should be the ones addressing these actions well before it becomes an issue for us on the field. That said, sometimes the line can be quickly and severely crossed by spectators, and other times game administrators can simply fail to address remarks appropriately. There is a line where we as umpires must look for spectator sportsmanship issues to be addressed. A good threshold for this is when spectator comments start to get a reaction out of opposing coaches or players. At this point, comments have started to affect on-field gameplay, and it must be addressed before things can quickly spiral out of control. Now, the way for this to be addressed by an umpire is to immediately stop the game and have the comments and remarks addressed by the game administrator. If the administrator is not immediately available, instruct the home team coach that the game will not continue until you can speak with the administrator. Again, the point here is that while we as umpires are not to address spectators, we absolutely will not let negative remarks from non-participants affect the game, players, and coaches. This is not professional baseball, and we do not expect our participants to deal with comments and remarks the same way a professional would. Now, another key to enforcing good sportsmanship has to do with an umpire's after-game responsibilities. After any game that has sportsmanship issues, you must report those situations in a game report. This allows state leadership to identify problem teams and participants, and it also helps to identify schools that are failing to adequately address spectator behavior. Again, as a point of emphasis, you're expected and required to enforce sportsmanship and to report all violations that occur in your games. Schools and coaches are aware of this point of emphasis and will not be caught off guard by any enforcement you see necessary. The key is that sportsmanship must be enforced. The second point of emphasis for this year is obstruction and interference. The NFHS Baseball Rules Committee made this a point of emphasis because the violations of these rules can often flare tempers and lead to sportsmanship issues. Several examples can include a member of the offensive team yelling, "I got it," on a pop-up in the infield, a defensive player faking a tag on a runner, intentional and illegal contact made by a runner in an attempt to break up a double play. These are examples of obstruction and interference, and when we fail to enforce correct penalties for these actions, it leads to players and coaches feeling they need to take action in response. By umpires swiftly and accurately labeling and addressing interference and obstruction, we can maintain control of the game and remove a desire for retribution from opposing teams. I won't jump into definitions and awards for these violations in this video, but I do encourage you to check out the videos where I do review those, which are linked in the video description. Finally, the last 2 points of emphasis, jewelry and eye black, are pretty simple. As discussed in our previous video on the 2023 rules changes, which again you can find linked below, jewelry prohibitions have been significantly reduced. This is a point of emphasis because we want to ensure everyone is on the same page that many and most of these restrictions are now gone. For the eye black point of emphasis, this hasn't been an issue for the most part in our GHSA games, but we are aware of another state that has been having issues with eye black, which is why it's been stressed in the 2023 rules book. To make sure we're all on the same page, here are the basics. There are no changes for the written rules for this point of emphasis, and the rulebook doesn't lay out any specifics for how eye black should be applied. The only rules we are using for this point of emphasis are those around sportsmanship, specifically rules prohibiting intimidation and taunting opponents. A great example of an illegal application of eye black would be Escobar's MLB suspension in 2012 for a gay slur written on his eye black. Obviously, any slur violates sportsmanship rules. Note though that this standard does not necessarily ban any messages from being applied to eye black. For example, Tim Tebow's Bible verses on his eye black would still be legal. So those are the 4 points of emphasis for this season, so let's review the case plays associated with these changes. Case play number 1. Does a written or verbal warning have to be issued before a coach or player is ejected? The correct answer here is no. The rules book does not require that a warning always be issued before an ejection. Case play number 2. Can a player be restricted to the dugout for sportsmanship-related infraction? The correct answer here is no. The NFHS rules do not allow for players to be restricted to the dugout for sportsmanship issues. They can only be restricted to the dugout for having illegally participated in the game. Case play number 3. A remark from the fan of the home team is unsportsmanlike and directed towards a coach or player of the visiting team. The response gets a reaction from the player or coach it was directed at. How should the umpire address this in a high school game? A. The umpire has no jurisdiction to address the situation with the fan, and they can only eject or restrict the player or coach based on their response. B. The umpire can eject the fan that made the comment. C. The umpire can restrict the head coach of the home team to the dugout or eject the coach for the comment of his fan. D. The umpire should stop the game until game administrators have addressed the situation. The correct answer here is D. While we can't directly interact with the fan, for example with an ejection, we do need to have the situation addressed as it has caused a reaction on the field. At that point, we risk letting the situation spiral out of control if we don't make sure that it's addressed immediately. We need to stop the game and wait until a game administrator is able to handle the situation before the game resumes. Case play number 4. R1, 1 out. B1 hits an infield pop-up. F6 and F5 are both getting into position to catch the ball when a member of the offensive team yells, "I got it." As a result, neither F5 or F6 catches the ball, thinking another defensive player has called it. Is this interference? The correct answer is yes. This is verbal interference, and we need to make sure that we're identifying and calling verbal interference every time. Otherwise, the team that was affected by it could seek out retribution and ultimately lead to sportsmanship issues in our game. Case play number 5. While B1 is moving towards second base on a hit to right center field, F6, who does not have the ball in his possession, fakes a tag on B1 coming into second. The fake tag causes B1 to slide into the bag. This is the first time a fake tag has been made in the game. Is this A, this is legal, B, this is illegal, F6 is ejected, C, this is illegal and the umpire should tell F6 that this is obstruction and he could be ejected if he does it again, D, this is illegal and it is obstruction, the umpire should issue an official warning to F6 that the next fake tag will result in his ejection, or E, this is illegal and it is obstruction. The umpire should issue an official warning to the defensive head coach that the next fake tag will result in an ejection of the offender. The correct answer here is E. This is obstruction and we do need to enforce the obstruction as necessary. Then, after the playing action ends, we want to make sure to give an official warning to the head coach of the defensive team. By giving an official warning and one that's big enough for everyone at the game to see, we show everyone that we're on top of the game and covering this sportsmanship issue. This helps to demonstrate our control of the game and can prevent more sportsmanship issues from arising later in the game. Case play number 6. Is this player legally equipped for NFHS baseball? The correct answer here is yes. A pearl necklace is now legal in NFHS baseball. Case play number 7. Is this application of eye black legal for NFHS baseball? The correct answer here is yes. Unlike softball, in NFHS baseball, there are no regulations on how eye black must be applied. The only rule is that it cannot be intimidating or harassing of opponents. Case play number 8. Is this application of eye black legal for NFHS baseball? Note, the message on the eye black translates to a homophobic slur. The correct answer here is no. This is not a legal application of eye black for NFHS baseball. A homophobic slur or a racist or sexist slur written on eye black would obviously violate NFHS sportsmanship rules. Now, while we don't expect that our GHSA umpires be able to speak Spanish, we do expect that if you're made aware of a situation like this, or you do know the translation and that it is homophobic in nature, or if it's simply written in English, then we need to make sure that it's removed from the game immediately. Note that the message doesn't necessarily have to be a slur, but even something written such as FU across the eye black would violate NFHS sportsmanship rules and would have to be removed. Case play number 9. Is this application of eye black legal for NFHS baseball? The correct answer here is yes. This is a legal application of eye black in NFHS baseball. Again, unlike softball, we don't have any rules regulating how the eye black must be applied or saying that no messages can be applied on it. A Bible verse referenced on eye black would not be unsportsmanlike or a slur, and thus is legal for NFHS baseball. So there you have it, our review of the 2023 points of emphasis for NFHS baseball. If you found this video helpful, be sure to check out the rest of our videos and sign up for our weekly rules quiz in the video description. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I look forward to seeing you on the field.